So welcome everyone to our special online event. This is called A Conversation With, and we're delighted to have you join us today for what promises to be an enriching and engaging, enlightening conversation. As we navigate the ups and downs of life, the importance of genuine human connection cannot be emphasized enough. In this 30 to 45-minute discussion, we'll uncover the positive impact that meaningful connections can have on our well-being. My name is Albert DuPont. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the CEO of Trax Method and the proud host of this event today, and so glad to have all of you join us today. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Cathy Wilkes, and I'm going to give Cathy's background a little bit, but today, Cathy and I are going to explore ways we can foster human connections for better mental wellness and really talk about how we can actually begin to not only improve ourselves, but also the people we work with and get better relationships. Cathy will share valuable insights and practical strategies for cultivating and nurturing these crucial relationships. We invite you to engage, reflect in nurturing, and explore how we can harness the power to enhance your mental wellness as well as the wellness of your organizations you work with. And once again, welcome to this important conversation. As we go along, there is opportunity for you to use the chat box. If you have questions for Cathy, I'll be monitoring that and have an opportunity for us to listen to it. Before we begin, though, and introduce Cathy in more detail, I would like to acknowledge the support of one of my strategic partners and all-around great guy, Sam Fatima. Sam Media Productions is Sam's company, and what they do is they specialize in crafting compelling online images and videos that effectively communicate your business's message to your clients. Whether you're a small startup or a large corporation, they work closely with you to create headshots, photo branding for your website, and customized videos that cater to your unique needs, business needs. This approach helps in converting reluctant website visitors into clients. And who doesn't want that? Sam Media Productions, creating powerful images and videos for your business success. I've gotten to know Sam. He's got some great work. In the notes today, whenever I do a follow-up, you'll have his information and Cathy's information to reach out to Sam. So Sam, thank you for being here. So let me introduce our guest speaker today, our interviewee, Cathy Wilkes. So Cathy is a personal development coach and is a founding member ambassador of Napoleon Hill Institute. I didn't know this about Cathy until we met a few months ago, and I just immediately fell in love with her. If anybody knows that I've worked in Napoleon Hill, you'll know why whenever you hear Cathy today. She's a former senior inner circle coach for the legendary Bob Proctor, another person that if you don't know, you've probably read about, and holds 2 additional coaching certifications as a life mastery consultant. Cathy is an accomplished executive with a strong track record of building organizations from startup to multi-hundred million and beyond. She is known for her work in her personal transformation and her ability to bring together a group of individuals around a common vision. Cathy specializes in a proven system that facilitates lasting change. She has led large-scale projects from idea to execution and has launched and developed high-performing sales teams generating over $12 billion, that's what it be, $12 billion in new business annually, all while creating value-driven outcomes using the same principles she teaches today. Cathy is relentless in her pursuit of excellence in all domains of life and inspires those around her to live fully and freely at their highest and best. So welcome, Cathy.
Thank you, Albert.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today.
Yes.
So Cathy and I have been planning this for a while. And first, I want to start off by letting Cathy tell you about the great news that she got today. So Cathy, tell this team what happened today in your life.
Well, I thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share this. It was really something that I've been wanting to do. So my mentor, the legendary Bob Proctor, passed away last year, but he studied Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill for 61 years and attributed his success to that. More millionaires have attributed their success to the laws of success and the principles in Think and Grow Rich. So at the beginning of the year, this year, a group of us that worked with Bob stood up. Again, the Napoleon Hill Institute, this is the institute that he spoke from. He did his teachings and lectures in the early 1900s. So we stood up the institute again, created a path to certification to demonstrate a level of mastery of the 13 principles of success. And so I myself went through the coaching program. It was quite rigorous. I had my panel interview yesterday where I had to demonstrate by way of, how I would coach a client through something. And I found out last night, actually on my meeting just before this, that I am officially certified. So I am blessed and ready to go, Albert.
Hey, congratulations, Cathy, because I know
Thank
that's
you.
hard work. I mean, the principles of Think and Grow Rich definitely have something that has impacted me. There's a few of them that like really ring out to my heart. But let me start off with this one though. Vulnerability, right? I think
Yeah.
of all the people talking about vulnerability, Brene Brown included, right? It
Yes.
often plays a huge role in community building. How can individuals overcome fear of opening up and connect on a deeper level with others? Because we know relationships are so important, right? So whenever
Yes.
somebody has that vulnerability issue and they really are having that fear, what are some ways they can actually overcome that to really get out there?
Yeah, well, let's just jump right in. I love this topic, the topic of vulnerability. What we're seeing now on social media platforms is a shift. It used to be the filter and the perfection and the perfect family, the couple and the two children and the dog and the cat, whatever. Now we're seeing more transparency, more vulnerability. Hey, this is who I am first thing in the morning. This is how I'm feeling. I did a Facebook post on my personal page about a very hard time that I went through. And I'm getting messages from people that are aligning with the feelings that I posted. So now more than ever, we are in a time of taking down, opening the curtain, taking down the guard and saying, you know what, this is who I am, and aligning with our true selves. So becoming vulnerable requires us to have a level of understanding and compassion for who we are. And most of all, an acceptance, right? When we feel loved and accepted, it's easy for us to walk into a room. It's easy for us to pick up the call or the phone and do a cold call, to a client. But that sense of vulnerability is now becoming a strength. And you mentioned Brene Brown. I love what she's doing around this vulnerability work because it really speaks to the humanness of who we are. The pandemic just highlighted what was already there, and that was these mental wellness issues. I'm not talking about health. I'm talking about mental wellness where maybe we feel overstressed. We don't have resiliency. We can't sleep well. We feel a low mood, not, to the extent that you would go to a doctor for help and medication. But all of those things play into our humanness, and being able to say, to call you up and say, you know what, I'm not feeling so hot today. Can you meet me for a cup of coffee? Or do you know anything that's going on? I'd love to get out of the house and connect with people. So I'll stop there because I could probably talk the whole hour about that. But I love this. The conversation around vulnerability is turning now into a conversation of strength. It's who we are as humans. We're not perfect.
So let's dive a little bit more into that. So one of the things that's coming up for me right now is that as a novice leader and thinking about the business owners, organizational leaders that I work with, we're not taught vulnerability, right? It's not something that, like, first of all, it's almost like a point of shame whenever we are vulnerable, right? We will have things like we wear emotions on our sleeves, right? Those kind of things, which I think are just signs of vulnerability that you can actually say and do, what's really true to your heart. So I'm wondering, as you speak, because I know you do a lot of executive coaching. So as an executive coach in the coaching work you do, how do you start to enlighten business owners and organization leaders to really consider vulnerability as a strength rather than as a weakness?
Well, also have certifications in energy work. It depends on the energy you're coming to the table with. So, for example, if I'm leading a meeting of this type, and I say, you know what, to the best of my ability, I've researched this, but guys, I haven't found anything. That's a level of transparency. Like, I'm telling you, I don't have anything for you today, but I'm not coming in making excuses and feeling bad and picking up the bat and hitting myself over the head, really eating away at my self-image. So when we have leaders, and this is why it's very common that we have a leadership crisis, because the leaders themselves need to educate themselves on the importance of understanding that there are humans that work for them. These are not robots, they're humans. And what responsibility is the leadership taking for training and developing these people? It's not just training them on a process or a system. It's about developing them as humans to build their confidence up in what they're doing to help them develop a level of expertise. That's why I love the work of Napoleon Hill, because it's this, it's like ever increasing cycles of goodness. Like you're always going to the next level. When I was leading the sales team at Fannie Mae, it was a $12 billion team. I took on that team. It was not in good shape. And I had to take 3 teams that were kind of in 3 different corners and bring them all together. And so the first thing I did was I got them in a room. And I said, we're just going to talk about who you guys are and what's important to you. But it's those conversations, we have to understand what's important to people in order to match them with the right opportunity and to make sure they're in the right environment. I left that environment because it wasn't necessarily the right environment for me. I could not be myself. I couldn't speak freely and openly about the improvements that I wanted to make. So I felt like I was in this box. And we don't feel good when we're living in the box. So one of the things, the first thing I do with executives is I work with them on themselves, because the more real we get with ourselves, the more open we are to the imperfections of others. Brene Brown wrote a great book, The Gift of Imperfection. And it's wonderful because it is a gift. It gives you something to focus on to say, you know what? I'm not really good at that, but I'm absolutely in love with that. And I want to get good. Can you help me do that? I mean, I love to be around people like that because it says to me that they're green and growing.
And we always have a place to grow, right? That's the other one.
Yes.
I have a piggyback question on that one, because you talked about bringing people in the room together, right? So we know that creating a sense of community is crucial for health and well-being, not only internally, but also in organizations' health and well-being, right?
Yes.
What I hear you saying is working from the inside out, right? Once you can get healthy, then you can help your team and others get healthy as your organization. Whether it's in small groups on large scales, right? So you just said you brought your team together, but I know that the company you work for, the organization was quite huge, but you were able to start on a smaller basis. How do you define community, and why is it important for personal growth and development?
For me, community, when I think of community, the first word I think of is connection. We're communing. We have there's some commonality. It's either a common issue that we're all facing or a common way of expressing, maybe through a hobby, an idea, a club at work. Very frequently in the work environment, you see these employee resource groups. And the employee resource groups are centered around an idea. And when people feel connected to that idea, it naturally creates that community, that sense of oneness, like I'm part of this. We all want to feel part of something. So whether it's a family or a team or a social group or some kind of a societal, demographic, we all want to feel part of something. So community to me is really it's kind of organized around a common thread that holds people together, that ties people together, where that sense of commonality or that point of commonality is what creates the initial connection, and you can build from it. When people feel, for example, if I'm drawn to a specific community online, I'm drawn to the idea of what I think that community is going to do for me. We always come at things, whether we want to admit it or not, is what's in it for me. Because there's something inside, there's a need inside of us that thing out there is connecting with. And so it draws us to it. And by the mere fact of drawing us to it, we are bonded in that circle. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's more, we live the most fulfilling life is a life lived from the inside out. where we say, you know what was my part in that? I recently shared with someone that I've been divorced now for a very long time, and I actually regret getting divorced. I think there was a lot that I could have done differently. But the way that I'm looking at that, and he's happily remarried, I'm very happy with him. We have a great relationship. But the way that I look at it is how I got to this point of not wanting to choke him was I thought, if there was 1% that was my doing, what was that? And I began to look at myself in a way like, oh my gosh, I wasn't easy to live with back then. Like, I'm not the person today that I was back then. But if we look at even teams, okay, there's a major mistake. It's not the client's fault. Like, what's the 1% that we could have, that we could take hold of and embrace and say, you know what, maybe this is an opportunity to do things better. So even within a household, you can have community, but there's also a platform of mutual respect. There has to be that mutual respect because that's where the trust is built.
One of my, it's making me think of one of my favorite mentors, John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? It's that 1%. And for me, one of the things I've always thought about was, as a leader, I'm 100%, right? And that for me to cause things into matter, right? And to be able to be there. So I'm wondering right now, as you talk about the common thread of connectedness, right? And if you put it into that business sense or in the sense of, organizational leaders and the work they're doing, what would you recommend to maybe a younger novice leader that's trying to build that community amongst their team?
For a novice leader, I would definitely say, step into the work of personal development and pick your coach, choose your coach very carefully. Young leaders, I was very fortunate from the very first job I had out of college to have a wonderful mentor who invested in me. He invested time, money, resources to show me, to demonstrate what success looked like. See, as humans, we're looking for something to model. That's the other thing that community provides for us, is a model of behavior. Now, I'm not a behavioral therapist, but I have studied behavior for almost 3 decades now. Behavior within a community, you generally have like-minded people that are drawn. Remember, the energy, the vibrational energy of any community is very consistent. The only way to lift that up is to bring that entire community up to the next level. Well, how do you do that? The community leader. It's the community leader's responsibility to create an environment where people either step up or they self-select out.
Say that again, Cathy. That was so powerful what you just said. Step up or select out, huh?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, so a lot of times I'm just speaking from my spirit, but I'll try to, let me say it this way. When it's up to the leader to, when a novice or a younger person finds themselves in a leadership position. So maybe they've attained a level of success and all of a sudden now they have a team. What do I do with these people? The first thing that I would do is what my mentor taught me. I mean, I was a vice president at 29 years old, leading a sales team, and I didn't really even understand like what that meant. But I was driven, and I knew I created a system that worked, and I knew I could teach it to other people. And my sole goal was for them to succeed, because if they succeeded, then I would as well. So it was not about me, but it was all about me, because as I'm sewing into other people, I have to become more of who I'm supposed to be in order to stay a step ahead, to lead. Remember, a leader doesn't point the way up the mountain, they lead the way up the mountain. So in any organization, Bob used to call it a paradigm. A paradigm is simply a way of being. Paradigms are mental habits stored in the subconscious mind that have almost exclusive control over our behavior. So if you have a culture that's passive aggressive, or you have a culture that's dynamic, chances are the leader is that. Because the leader, the character of the leader, the way of being of the leader, and the behavior of the leader filters down throughout the entire organization. So when you have a community or a team, you have a novice leader, that novice leader needs that outside perspective, because we all have blind spots. When somebody wants to get to the next level in a career, I don't know how you do it without a mentor. Maybe it's not an official coaching relationship. Maybe it's somebody that you work with, it can be just as good. I'm not saying you have to go out and pay somebody, but if you want somebody outside, be careful who you hire, because you want to make sure that that person has demonstrated that they've done what you want them to teach you to do. So in the context of a community, when there's a vibrational energy to everything in this Zoom, there's a vibrational energy, right? We came on the Zoom and you said, what am I excited about? I'm excited to be here. But my energy is high because I know that, Albert, you and I are going to serve this group of people to the very best of our ability. So when you walk into a room, you can feel energy. You might not be totally aware of it, but have you ever walked into a room where two people have just had a serious argument?
To feel the energy, right?
And you could cut it with a knife, as the saying goes. That's energy. So we emit energy everywhere we go. You know, I noticed that as I've worked on myself, particularly over the last 4 years, different people are drawn to me when I go out now. Of course, we're out and about again fully, but different people are drawn to me. And people who used to sort of stay away from me are now, they're like, I want to know more about what you do. Well, it wasn't them, it was me. I was emitting an energy where my thoughts were not in harmony with where I wanted to go. And so in a community, that's why conversation is so important in a community, and why we must do away with conversation, gossip, criticism, judgment. Now, I know that's a tall order because of how accessible everything is. But when we judge, I notice I fasted from judging for a week, which meant that I had to notice every time I was getting ready to judge something or someone. And I noticed that when that came about in my life, that it was because I was feeling threatened. I was feeling insecure. I wasn't in harmony with the self-image that I know this, this woman that I want to be, that I'm working toward ever, taking steps towards. But so when we put it on somebody else, a lot of times it's the insecurity within. It's the fear of not fitting in. It's the fear of being left out. We all have that fear. It's not just the kid on the playground. We as adults have that. So community is so critical when it comes to creating that environment, that connectedness, to say, you know what, you're welcome here. We have something in common. You don't have to be perfect, and it's okay to mess up. That sends a powerful message.
Gosh, there's so many thoughts on that I have right now that I'm getting excited talking to you about this. I always am, right? But one of my things that I'm thinking about right now is I remember as a new leader not be able to connect with people like that, right? Not having the ability to connect. One of the things I'm taking away is that it is a learnable skill and that people can learn to do this. And something you said that really resonated with me and your own story, I think we've talked about this many times offline, is that it's the personal journey. It's taking the journey and in the person you want to create in the world. And I think many leaders, what they do, they tend to more or less be the managerial role rather than leadership. As you said, you point up the mountain, you lead the mountain, right? You lead the mountain and up the mountain. And so one of the things I'm thinking about right now is, how do we intentionally create that human connection? So one of the things I'm taking away from you right now is being the person that you want to have show up in the world. That's what I would say. Like, be the person you want to have show up in the world. Is it Gandhi? Somebody said that, right? Be the change in the world.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, are there 2 or 3 things that you normally give your coaching clients that says, okay, these are 2 or 3 very specific skills or practices you can put in place to be able to make that connection with the other folks in your office, in your home, in your life, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with every client, in fact, I just signed a new client, and with her, all my engagements are 3 months because you really can't transform in a couple of sessions. It's got to be, and this is scientifically proven, that transformation takes a minimum of 90 days. So based on what she wants to accomplish, the very first thing we're going to do is work on her self-image. She has an image of herself that she's not worthy of success. She has an image of herself that when she walks into a room or goes into a meeting, that she's not as good. This woman is brilliant and she's gorgeous. So it just, it speaks to, we never know what's going on the inside for other people. And so sometimes people who are shy are considered to be snobby or, standoffish. That's, what we're working with here. But the first assignment I gave her was to do a thought log, to write down, set a timer on her phone every 15 minutes for a week, to write down what is the thought that you're thinking right at that moment. No judgment, no criticism, no rewording it to make it sound good. I told her, I said, this is for you, but you want to do a thought log for 7 days or 5 days. The point is you want to do it long enough to get a good picture of how your thoughts are trending. And when I did this, Bob gave me this exercise and he said, Cathy, he said, you're speaking exactly what you don't want. And I said, that's not true. And I would argue with him. And finally I gave in. And the biggest component of my success with Bob was that I let down my wall and I was coachable. And I took whatever he said and I did it to the T. It was completely coachable. So that's the first thing I would do is create a thought log. Become aware of how your thoughts are trending. And if your thoughts are trending in a manner that is not edifying to you, doesn't lift you up, doesn't encourage you, doesn't show you compassion, all the things that you want to show somebody else, you have to show yourself first.
I love that.
You can't really celebrate everybody else and then never celebrate you. It just, because the inner will always create the outer. It's the universal law. So, and it's the law of opposites when I say do a thought log. So you can use the law of opposites or the law of polarity to draw a line down the middle of the page or take another page and take that thought on day number 1, line 1. And then how do you create a positive idea out of that? And then one by one over time, you start falling in love with those ideas. I think people ask me, like, what did I do to complete my certification? Well, I fell in love with the material. I became the material. I wanted to demonstrate that because if I can do it, it means you can do it too. There is no private good. That's a really important idea, a concept to embrace right now, is there is no private good. If you know somebody who's very successful, and you've identified that in them, that means that you can be successful too.
That is so great. There's a couple of things coming out in my head right now. One is in my company, when I'm working with people, I love the DISC assessment. It's one of my favorite ones. And why I'm saying that is because know thyself first and what our strengths and weaknesses are, because then you can start to augment those behaviors and actually know that. For me, I'm a high C compliant person. Tasks come before people. So I have to make sure that I schedule people and spend time with people, because if not, my automatic tendency is toward tasks, not people. And I had to learn that about myself. And I'm glad you're talking about these things, because really it's about the self-actualization first, just self-learning first. And you keep on talking about that. And I think it's so true. And I just want to bring this up to the audience. It's about, I've got to learn about myself first and then start to figure out other people. So, I love Napoleon Hill. I'm not a master at his work like you are, but one of my favorite things that he does is around masterminding, right? That's one of his 13 principles of success as a mastermind. And you kind of alluded to that, because having that mentor allows you to have that mastermind, right? Has you, grow the mastermind. And so at Trex Method, we work with businesses to be able to maximize their teams and grow their business through more optimized teams. How does growing a business organization to next level resonate with your own work and your philosophy? How do you get a team from good to great in terms of this work?
That's a great question. I will tell you, so there are a number of assessment tools out there. The one that we used my last corporate role was the DISC. And I love what I love. And I want to point something out that you said, Albert, that is so, so powerful. You're a high C, so you're task oriented, But in order to balance yourself out, you deliberately, intentionally, schedule time with people.
Mhm.
That is a sign of a true leader. And I'll tell you why, because it'd be so easy for you to hide behind tasks, but you're not doing that. For me, I'm a very on the disc. I'm 99% D, 99% I. And last time I took it was a couple years ago, I had virtually no S and C.
Wow.
And so I have to, but here's the thing. I know that about myself. So working on empathy and compassion, the way that I learned how to do that in a team environment for my team was to do it for myself first. So how do you work with a team? Well, ask your question again for me. Ask it again.
So as you're thinking about growing teams from good to great, right?
Oh, yes. Okay.
With Napoleon Hill around masterminding,
Yeah.
persistence, things like that. How does that relate to the work? Especially, I'm so curious about Napoleon Hill and his thinking. He was a brilliant man, in terms of what you did. If you never read Think and Grow Rich, let me know. I'll send you the PDF. It's out of copyright just because it's so old. People have written it over and over again, and I've got a copy of it for you to read on PDF. But part of it was, how do you grow people, right? Like, to me, what he was talking about was the best way you can grow is really make sure that you have a mastermind of people who come together. So how do I, as a business owner, organizational leader, how do I start to create a mastermind within my organization so that it's from good to great?
Yes. So the mastermind principle, for anybody that's not familiar with the mastermind principle, the idea is that when two or more are gathered, it is a biblical principle as well. When two or more are gathered, there's an intelligence. There's always a higher intelligence. This is where creative ideas come from. So we have a creative imagination and we have a synthetic imagination. A synthetic imagination would be like, okay, this is a mouse and it's already created. If I thought of a new way to use this for something else, that would be using my synthetic imagination, because the thing is already created. But creative imagination comes from nothing into something, like Steve Jobs creating, Apple. With respect to a mastermind, the power in the mastermind is unification. So this is really, really important. A mastermind is not group therapy, and it's not even a group meeting. A mastermind comes together in the principles of the mastermind. So toward a common goal, toward a common end. So if you're in a mastermind with your team, you have an outcome that you want to generate. Maybe it's a client offering or a way of working together or some internal, external initiative. In the mastermind, you're focused on one idea and you hold that one idea and you presence that one idea. So you actually energetically, you're holding space for that infinite intelligence to come in to drop ideas. I mean, it's happened with you and I, Albert. When you and I have been together, we're like, oh, wait, I have an idea. Let me write that down. So the mastermind, the gathering of more than one person toward a common goal with what he calls definiteness of purpose is extremely powerful. There are specific mastermind principles that, like in my mastermind, we start out by reciting the mastermind principles to really help us to get focused on, okay, what are we creating here? We're releasing these ideas to the mastermind. We're respecting each other's opinion. Everything is out on the table. And here's what we want to accomplish. Here's the end goal. So a mastermind can be very, very productive when you're leading a team using the mastermind principle. What's really important is to create an environment of trust and for them to know that there's no place for criticism and judgment in a mastermind. A mastermind is simply people working toward a common goal with definiteness of purpose and a desire to meet with a solution. For every problem, there is a solution. It's our awareness that has to be raised up to the level of the solution, because if we were already up there, we would already know it, right? So it's our growth. That's why, Albert, I always go back to, if a leader wants to improve performance on a team, they have to start with themselves. Yeah, we can't, as leaders, we can't say, oh, you go take this course or this class and tell me about it when you come back. that doesn't work. I guarantee you that's a very unhappy team.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough right now, that oftentimes whenever I'm working with leaders, either coaching them or just supporting a novice leader, they want to point the finger to the team and say, this team needs fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to work with them on, Cathy, and it sounds like you and I do very similar thing, is before we can even get to them, let's take a look at ourselves and see where it is that we may be causing some of these issues first. And
Yeah.
with anytime I'm meeting with leaders, usually it's lack of clarity, lack of precision, an inability to communicate, right? That all falls back on the leader. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And so one of the principles I think that Napoleon Hill speaks about that I love is persistence. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of his 13. The other one I fell in love with is persistence. Because I'm a time management hack, right? Like I love, and I think one of the things that Napoleon kind of taught me in his work is that we have a lot of things going on in our head. Don't stop. It reminds me of the story of the guy digging the gold, right? And was 3 feet from it, sold everything. The next guy comes and starts digging for the gold, and 3 feet later he finds
Yeah, Edward Darby. Imagine,
Tell me
imagine
the
what.
story. Tell that story, because it's one of my favorite ones on persistence and really has an impact on leadership.
Well, I mean, this was back in the gold mining days, and Edward Darby had bought machinery and started digging and digging and digging. He had heard that there was a vein of gold, and the story goes that he dug and dug and he gave up. He gave up. He decided that the opportunity wasn't there. And he came to that conclusion more out of exhaustion and kind of a quitting spirit than he did from fact. And so he sold the machinery, all of the equipment for, I don't know, pennies on the dollar as it was back then. And it turned out the gentleman that he sold the equipment to went back into the vein, 3 feet, hit the vein and hit gold and became a multimillionaire. So it was the persistence. When Napoleon Hill talks about persistence, see, this is why he starts the Think and Grow Rich. He starts the book with the number one, the first step toward riches is desire. You have to have a burning desire for whatever it is you decide that you want. You want $1 million, you have to have a burning desire, and it can't just be about money. See, a lot of people think Think and Grow Rich is about money. It's
Thank
not.
you. I was going to clarify that. That's
Yeah,
a good.
it's not. It's about creating a rich life. Well, we live in an environment where money is important because mainly there's nothing to replace what we need it for, right? I can't pay my mortgage with goodwill. They want money. The bank wants money. So Think and Grow Rich is about becoming rich from the inside out. And as you develop that richness in your personality, as you develop a pleasing personality, as you develop definiteness of purpose, as you develop that burning desire, persistence, create an organized plan. I mean, that's one thing that a mastermind is great for. You have an idea and you need an organized plan. Get people together in a room that have the expertise, that have the specialized knowledge to be able to create that plan. But it was persistence, or lack of persistence in this case, that caused Darby to walk away and sell everything, for pennies, when somebody else said, okay, this guy had nothing to lose. The guy that bought the machinery had nothing to lose. Went back in there, rolled up his sleeves, and 3 feet, he hit the gold vein.
That is so good, Cathy, because I and again, working with some of my clients at Trax Method, one of the things I start working them on is really thinking about how they're being persistent, right? So we help businesses oftentimes create optimization tools and their playbooks and their cadence and their work they're doing. But it takes a leader being persistent in communicating that message, consistently communicating your core values, consistently communicating your key messages. And oftentimes, most leaders I've learned don't do that. And it was something I had to learn how to do, was just constantly communicate. And the more you constantly communicate, you're persistent in your messaging, things start to occur, knowing that you have a value and be able to communicate those core values of one of the big distinctions you talked about was being coachable. It's one of my favorite ones. I wish my 25-year-old self was coachable. He wasn't. And the older I've got, the more I realize how being coachable allows me to absorb the beauty of others, right? The gifts of others. Because coachability is really about opening yourself up to the gifts that other people have and the gifts that I kind of think of it like little boxes, right? Little Tiffany boxes, if you will.
Yes.
You can return it if you want. You probably don't want to, but this little gift I give you is something that's going to help you, but you may not realize it at the time.
Yeah. That's so good. That, that brings up something. Oh, this is so good. So when like you're talking about coaching your clients and giving them some guidance and direction, I always tell people, I don't give you advice. I will give you guidance and direction. You can implement what you want. But if you want transformation, implement everything. And many times what holds us back is a belief about something. Now, a belief is just a thought that we think over and over again. We can have beliefs, common beliefs in community. In an organization, there can be common beliefs. It goes back to what I said about the paradigm. But the thing about belief that most people don't understand is that a belief is based on an evaluation of something. And at any point, we can reevaluate a belief. And so to be coachable, Albert, like you were just saying, to be coachable, you're willing to sit back and allow that reevaluation to happen, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But your subconscious is going through all the files and saying, okay, if we're going to take on a new belief, we got to get rid of this one. And you literally pull up the roots of the tree from that old belief and you install a new belief. That's what a lot of the energetic work is about, that, hypnotherapy, emotion code, body code, whatever methodology you use. But a lot of it is about that. It's about saying, like when Bob said to me, I wasn't coachable, I took offense to that because I had an ego, and that ego wasn't serving me anymore. It wasn't serving me anymore. I feel like I'm confident in what I do today, but I am totally open to somebody saying, you know what, Cathy, you're full of it. That's not.
So Cathy, in my head, it's 1920 something. When did Think and Grow Rich? I know it's almost on a 100-year anniversary, I think.
So Think and Grow Rich, I want to say it was 1933 that it was published.
1930. I know it's around there. I know it's coming up in 100 years. So again, recommended read for everybody. I mean, some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world read that every year, right? And install. And I love the 13 principles. And for those of you, there are different versions of Think and Grow Rich. There's the original, of course. And again, you've got to remember he was writing this in the early 1900s. So the language is a little bit dicey.
Of that time?
Yeah, of the time, language of the time.
Yeah.
If you want a more modern reading, there's a lot of modern readings of it. There are some for subpopulations, such as for Black community or Hispanic community. So there's different kind of people have taken these things. And so one of the things that, Cathy, that I love so much in our conversations is that you're always elevating me.
Oh, thank you, Albert.
And it's just a good opportunity. I know we're running out of time, and we've been doing this, believe it or not, for 45 minutes. You and I said we'd be able to go on and on. So I want to do one last thing with you. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'll give you a last word. So I'm going to do 1 minute. I'm even going to set a timer for myself so that I don't lose track of this. And I've got some questions for you. You're going to get 2 answers each.
Okay.
And, it's an either or. Okay. So work or play?
Play.
Love or friendship?
Love.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Morning or evening?
I'm sorry?
Morning or evening?
Morning.
Salty or sweet?
Salty.
Do you watch shows one episode at a time or binge watch the whole season?
Binge.
Would you rather fly or have super strength?
Fly.
Dream job or win the lottery?
Oh gosh. Dream job or win the lottery? I would say dream job.
Physical strength or mental strength?
Mental.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Night in or night out?
Night out.
Expensive presents or homemade presents?
Homemade.
Yeah. Do you kill bugs you find inside or take them outside?
Oh, okay. I killed them.
Thank you. Thank you for entertaining me. I found those questions very entertaining, so I wanted to try them out
I
with you.
love it. Thank
Any words of wisdom for the group as we finish up?
Albert, I would say, first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for attending. Albert, I have so much love and respect for you. We were fast friends from the first time we met. But I would say this, if you have a longing or a discontent, do not ignore that. Okay. I had somebody recently say to me, my mentor said, Cathy, quit acting like you have the rest of your life to accomplish this. And he was right. He was right. I have a birthday coming up, so I'm kind of assessing where I am in life. And he said, quit acting like you have the rest of your life. Like, do it now so you can enjoy. And so that's what I would say to you. If you have a longing or a discontent, if you feel like there's a gap or there's something that, you keep trying, and you're just not getting the result that you want. We get results in 4 areas in our career: health and well-being, time and money freedom, and our love and relationships. Mental wellness is about all of those. We really were thinking, we didn't really get into mental wellness, Albert, but this is a multi-dimensional approach. There are no longer one-dimensional solutions anywhere because we're realizing the complexity of who we are. So I would say if you have a longing or a discontent, explore it. Find somebody who can help you. If you want a discovery call with me, I'll be happy to give you a complimentary call. Reach out to Albert if it's something with respect to business, but don't shy away from personal development. Personal development is one of the most life-giving journeys you will ever go on. And if you have a partner, if you're married or you have children, that gift will move on to them and bless them and everybody around you. It's worth the work.
Oh, so great, Cathy. Cathy, how do people reach out to you?
Facebook Messenger. My email is, I'll put it in the chat. Can I do that, Cathy?
I'll make sure they get it. You can just make sure they get it.
Yeah, you can send my email. It's a Facebook chat. I'll probably get it faster, but my email is good as well. If you have a specific kind of scenario that you want to talk to me about, I'd be more than happy to do that. Listen, if you're a friend of Albert's, you're a friend of mine.
That's good. I love it. Cathy, thank you so much. Sam, thank you so much for the background. For those of us who are attending today, we will have this recorded and sent to you. So please watch it again, share it with others. But Cathy, this is the first conversation with, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Conversation with me today. All my love in the university.
Happy inauguration.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.